Welcome to the next panel. The question is, how can we push innovation in corporates? I've been working for more than 25 years in the media industry now, and I know pretty well how hard it is to reinvent a big company when it comes to digitization. Actually, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I invented Weltkompakt. That was like the compact edition of the newspaper Die Welt. And with this vehicle, we tried to be like a digital newspaper. We used QR codes, we had a YouTube channel, and we tried everything to be in touch with all these new things. Actually, I was one of the first journalists on Twitter and have like 48,000 followers now. So, as you might know, in Axel Springer, this actually works pretty well. They are like ahead of the rest when it comes to digitizations. And now I have 4 gentlemen with me on stage, and I want to talk with them about how they push innovation in their corporates. And the first with me on stage is Ramin Niroumand from FinLeap. Warm applause, please. Hi, Ramin.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Next is a guy from Universal, and he is Strategic Development Partner. Welcome, Andreas Lauer. Hi, Andreas.
Hi.
Good to have you here. And then we have from Microsoft Ventures, and he's actually the principal, Stephan Jacquemot. Good to have you here.
Hello.
Welcome. And last but not least, we have the co-creator, Lufthansa Innovation Hub, Sebastian Herzog. Applause, please. And my first question goes to all of you. How important are startups when it comes to innovation in your company? Ramin, would you like to start?
For sure. So my company is actually specialized on building startups. So we call ourselves a company builder. So other people building cars, we building companies. And we actually help corporates with startups to actually getting the innovation on the ground. And so startups is our key ingredient, and we actually help corporates to do this in the startup way, bringing the innovation on the ground. So startups is key for us.
And how do you do it? How do you build startups?
So on FinLeap, we have central departments, as we are specialized only in banking and insurance. Obviously, we're quite important departments, for example, regulation, since legal is not the most sexiest part, but it's fulfillment you have to deliver. We have product and tech teams, we have venture partners who actually accelerate those ideas. And so we found the companies ourselves, we put central resources to it, and then we developed the companies to an independent player. So basically, you can say we combine the synergies of a holding with the agility of startups. So best of both worlds.
Sounds good. How important are startups for you?
So for us, startups are mainly, let's say, an alarm clock or a trigger so that we can see what's actually happening on the tech side in that field. A lot of people always think that only platforms are interesting to us, but for us, especially, let's say, specialized startups interesting. If you talk about CRM solutions, targeting, all of the stuff that we can actually add to the layers that we have, because Universal is a huge company, so we have different divisions and different processes that we need to innovate. So therefore, we look into the market and look if we see new initiatives, startups that can actually help us with the new tasks that we have.
And what is your main issue?
The main issue that we have.
Yeah, with
I don't want to say we have a main issue, but we always want to improve. This is the thing. So when we talk about marketing, how can we get better at marketing, especially at this size of a corporation that we are? We talk about, okay, how can we actually, as an example, maybe enhance the customer IDs that we have? How can we actually push the right content to the right people that they actually want to see? If we just had the influencer panel here, so it's highly interesting to us actually, not only which content should we deliver, but also how should we deliver the content to the right people. And this actually comes mainly from startups.
do you still have the right content and the right music?
I'm sure. I'm sure you listen to Universal content
Yeah.
the last 24 hours. Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Are you still in the charts with Universal Music?
Am I what?
Still in the music charts?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't work in the label, as we call it. I work
Okay.
in the field of strategic development, but I'm sure we're doing pretty good at the moment.
Okay. Stephan, how important are startups for you?
Yes, for Microsoft, they're very important. I mean, we're a company as total, we spend like, I think, $2 billion on R&D, and startups play a vital role, and mainly in three things. So we partner with startups, we invest or acquire startups, but they're also a reminder, especially for us, we're a tech company, so they remind us what innovations are out there and remind us to stay focused and to be fast. There were several examples of other great big companies like Nokia, like BlackBerry, that were once very big and now they have their challenges or not even existing anymore. So startups are a constant reminder to move fast, to stay focused and to be innovative. And we do this through partnering with startups or to invest or acquire startups. So we have to be always alerted depending on our business model and what we want to plan for the future.
Thank you. And Sebastian, I mean Lufthansa.
Great introduction, Lufthansa.
I want an airplane which is, corporate.
Yeah.
So, how important are startups for you?
Well, I think there's just one number from last year that really shows the impact of startups in the travel ecosystem and in the travel world, and that is the amount of money that had been invested into travel startups in the last year. And that number is 6.4 billion. And the market cap of Lufthansa today is 6.2 billion. So in other words, all venture capitalists last year decided to put more money into travel startups than they could actually, if you take the sum of that money, to take and buy a whole Lufthansa group, including all aircraft, including the biggest loyalty program, including Lufthansa Technik, including Sky Chefs, including everything Lufthansa has. So that number definitely pulled the trigger, also in Lufthansa management and Lufthansa board. So for Lufthansa, startups are a very relevant stakeholder, as investors are stakeholder. And I think you just have to find your answer. How do you want to deal with that stakeholder? And like if you talk about investors, general investors, then you need something like investor relations, so you talk to those stakeholders. If it comes to startups, I think it's not about talking to startups. It's really about learning what you mentioned already. It's about partnering, so implementing the technology of startups, helping startups to leverage their products. So it's a different way of working together. But in the end, they are a very relevant stakeholder for the company.
So this would be my second question. How do you actually work with them? Do they have like office spaces at Lufthansa, or how does it work?
Well, we really try to, probably I should just say a few words to the Lufthansa Innovation Hub. Lufthansa Innovation Hub is not a department of Lufthansa, it's a separate legal entity. So we have been founded 1.5 years ago. And when I founded that company with Lufthansa, I had the vision that we can really bring corporate innovation to a next level. So we decided not to be an incubator, not to be an accelerator, not to be the next corporate venturing company, but really try to figure out how to be the bridge between Lufthansa and the startup system. And to be that, we are currently an MVP ourselves. We try to figure out how that could work. And as of today, we have two streams. The one is we initiate partnerships with startups. So whenever there's a technology or a startup product out there where we believe it could fit to Lufthansa, we try to make the relevant combination. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But there's not a program around it. And the other one is, and that's very close to what Ramin said, was FinLeap. We really try to build startups. So we try to build products that change the way we all travel. And if those products are successful, they should be spinned off at separate startups as well.
And with how many startups do you actually work right now?
Well, it depends on how you, what do you mean with work? Like, how do you define it? We are in contact, I would say, on a regular basis with more than 100 startups. Contracts being implemented and signed, we have 5. Scouted, we just had a look at the total travel startup scene, and there were 3,000 startups we found globally. So that's the global perspective. 3,000, currently 100 in contact, 5 we signed any kind of contract with.
I see. Stephan, how do you do it? How do you work with startups?
We have several programs that we address the startup audience with. There are 3 to 4 I'd like to mention, and that's to start with is the Bismark program, probably the program that most of you guys know. It's a free software, all of our software from Microsoft for free for startups. So no strings attached, no catch, nothing. You get all of our products for 3 years for free. And this is helping startups to kick off. When they get founded, they get all of our software for free without any licensing fee, and it will be free forever. So when they decide to leave the program after 3 years, they can keep all the software, the .NET framework, Visual Studio, Office, Windows, Office for Mac, yes, is also included. So everything is for free for 3 years and even beyond. So then we have the Bismark Plus program, where we address partner accelerator programs like Techstars, Axel Springer, Deutsche Telekom. And those startups get up to $360,000 of free cloud services for 3 years. So every month they get $10,000 of free cloud service. And this is to help the startup to build a scalable backend with no costs. So they can dev and test, they can try things out, but they have no costs on the backend. Okay. And yes, open source technology is included. So they can use Linux servers, they can use Windows servers, no SQL databases. So whatever they want, it's all available. We get good feedback for those programs. And then we are one of those corporates who think an accelerator program is bringing us closer to the startup ecosystem. And we have tremendous success with this accelerator program. So we have an accelerator in 7 cities around the globe, which helps us to tap very deep into the respect ecosystem of those countries. So we have them in China, in Beijing, in Bangalore, in India, in Tel Aviv, in Berlin, in Paris, in London, and we have one in Seattle. And we're looking, by the way, for new startups for the next batch at our accelerator. So apply at microsoftaccelerator.com. And with these startups, we do a lot of business development. So we integrate them in we have business development teams. They introduce those startups to our customers, to our partners. I've worked very closely, for example, with AXA insurance company, and they come to us with a typical question. A corporate comes to a tech company and saying, where will AXA be in 5 or 10 years, and how can Microsoft help me to walk this path? So, and then we come up with our own technology and say, hey, you have to use Windows, you have to use Office, you have to use our cloud products. But then there are partners of Microsoft that customize, develop software for those companies. And then we have the startups as a third pillar. And we introduce those startups to our corporate customers and saying, and here they have smart solutions, they have smart products, you might want to take a look at them. They are kind of approved by Microsoft through an accelerator program, through other BizDev programs, and that helps our customers, our clients, to develop and perceive us as an innovative company. And then, of course, we have a venture arm, and then we do M&A. 2 years ago, we acquired a small company here in Berlin that some people know and might use their product, Wunderlist. I can share some insights here. They integrated perfectly into Microsoft. The team is super happy by being integrated. The Microsoft team is super happy having them integrated. And they are integrated in the Office division, and more specific into OneNote. So what we do is we develop OneNote, one of our core products, and that will integrate in Outlook. And by doing that, we're reshaping core technologies of ours that has been transformed by a startup, which is, to me, a super story.
Sounds pretty good. What do I have to bring to the table when I run a startup to be a part of your program?
Of the accelerator program?
Yeah.
First of all, you have to be good.
Okay.
So we're targeting with the accelerator programs currently, and that might change over time, but currently we're focusing on, as probably all of the accelerator programs, on early stage startups. So what you have ideally is you have a team already fully fledged with the main characters on board, like a CEO, a tech guy, a product guy, or a designer. And you have a little more than a PowerPoint presentation. And what we force you at the accelerator is to get very hands-on and early on customer feedback. You need to work closely with those customers, and we help you with our contacts into the industry, with our mentors, with our partner networks, to get those contacts to the industry and to build your MVP and to get customer validation. Customer validation is super critical, and a lot of startups try to skip that. They try to cheat. They are focusing on valuation, they're focusing on mingling with investors, they're focusing on raising the next round. But this is just a small portion, probably one of the smallest portion of your startup. The biggest thing is get customer feedback and get this, what people say, the product market fit. This is super cool, and this is what we force startups to do at our accelerators. And the beauty with our program is we don't take any equity, hence we don't invest in you. So you have to sustain this program for 4 to 6 months without any investments. And this is a strong advice I always give startups. If you don't have enough money privately from yourself or from your friends or from your family to survive for 4 or 6 months without any external injection, you should not found a startup. This is not something you should do. Then you should start working for a corporate, save some money, and then found a startup later in your career. Or you started directly after university when you're still young, and you still don't have these high costs. Yeah? But if you don't have the money to survive for 4 or 6 months without any external money, don't found a startup. It's not a good idea. You're too desperate. You're trying to get too quick, too much money. You're giving away too many equity, and you're mad at yourself in 6 months' time from now on that you gave away too many equity for too few money.
Interesting. You need money, folks. You need money. Don't do it if you don't have any money. So how do you do it at Universal?
For us, it's, let's say we have a sort of a different approach. Initially, 2 years ago, for Central Europe, we said that we don't want to do a traditional accelerator program or an incubation program. We said that we just want to work really selectively with certain startups that are useful for us and where we can bring some benefit to the table. So there's actually a variety of possibilities to work with a startup.
Can you give one example?
As maybe one example is Francis, who was here at the panel before that.
Yeah.
We have a strategic partnership in place since 2005, I think, like January 2005. So we identified this company pretty early and said, this is super interesting to us. His field of influencer marketing is pretty similar to what our artists are. They are big influencers. So we need to learn from the social media influencers, how they work actually on social media, and have to try to bring the information and all the metrics towards our artists so that we can market them better. So what we did is actually, now we have a strategic partnership in place where we really have a vital exchange about how actually our market is evolving and how his market is moving at the moment. Maybe the other example is that we have an in-house startup. So there was, from our Swedish company, came an initiative which is called Spin Up, where you can actually distribute your own music towards all the platforms that they are, such as Spotify, Apple Music, and so forth. So what we did, we took that idea, brought it to Germany, Switzerland, Austria in that case, and have now sort of an MD who works that startup and sits actually in our office. The thing is that to work with Spin Up or to be on that platform, you don't need a contract with us. You just can distribute your music independently over that platform, and you keep 100% of your rights.
Like TuneCore.
Pretty similar to TuneCore. The difference is we don't actually take a cut from the revenue. It's just an initial payment that you do for us.
Okay.
As a supply, you just pay the supply. That's it. So these are sort of the two angles that we have. Of course, there are other angles as well. If you talk about equity programs, but this is not our main focus at the end.
How do you do it at FinLeap?
Yeah, maybe let's tell me how we work with corporates.
Yeah.
So in the banking field, which is a quite complex, regulated market, and you always have to handle the trust thing. So even after 2009, the financial crisis, even after Panama Papers, even after Deutsche Bank just stopped the digital bank yesterday, banks still have a lot of trust. I bet everyone in this room will rather give the money to Deutsche Bank than to me, unfortunately. However, you can combine the two advantages the bank has. This is obviously the trusted brand, and it's obviously the customer reach. So for us, this is two assets which are interesting. And then when we want to found with them, I think there are three principles we follow. First of all, the company needs to stay independent from their strategic roadmap. So we never give a corporate the majority. It could be later in the process, but not in the beginning. Secondly, the most difficult part, even if you convince the CEO to do a startup with you, he has to bring the thing through his organization. And what we do in this case is, first of all, we limit the time. We limit the time to 6 weeks, and then we share the risk. So we start a project with them maximum 6 weeks, and we both agree on a breakup fee. A breakup fee which can the CEO actually sign by themselves, usually around 200,000 euros. If I'm stepping out of the project in this 3 weeks, I have also to pay the 200,000 euros. I know from the money in my pocket it's not fair to me, but however, I'm taking the risk because I'm convinced this would be a good startup. And the third thing is keeping the management in the driver's seat, even it's working together with a corporate venture. The management, it's always the philosophy at FinLeap, venture first, so the management has to decide. I think if you follow those three principles, you actually can do something in a corporate innovation. And I'm glad Andreas said they didn't do a company, a corporate accelerator, a company but also ever, because so far what you saw in Germany, I think Lufthansa is the first one, maybe they have a chance. However, the other ones you saw, never one of them being successful. Look at epic companies who did with ProSieben a massive fail. Look at all those corporate company builders and accelerators that in the end they don't work. Why? Because they don't fit to the corporate culture when it comes to change and strategy alignment.
It seems that everybody's talking about fintech now for like 2, 3, 4 years, and as actually the next big thing. And I asked myself, when will it finally happen? I mean, I still use my old online banking with Postbank, and I really hate it, and it sucks. So, when will it happen?
So first of all, I think the banks did something totally wrong in the past. They set a banking account totally for free, with a credit card, totally withdrawing money for free, everything for free, but 100% security. 100% not earning money from your data is something which actually makes sense. It doesn't. You just saw it in the newspaper that some new challenger bank, actually, it's not a bank, it's a front end on the bank, but this new challenger bank, it's actually now had to cancel accounts because of that. I mean, that's one of the parts.
We want names.
Okay, number 26, actually, you saw it that they had to cancel accounts. I mean, and I was at the largest internet bank in Germany before. Believe me, B2C banking does not make sense in the current way of earning no interest on the money you're having on the bank. So obviously that's not the field, for example, we are going in, because we don't go into models where you don't earn money. You just heard it from Stephan, who said, yes, you should have money when you found something. That's pretty right. And you should also take a look that your business models actually make money. That's the second advice I can give. Following that, you will see someday, it won't be yet, and for the end consumer, a way of aggregation of different fintech verticals, which are all doing financial services better. And then you actually can change your bank account. And for example, you don't need to have to stay with Postbank, because there are fintechs like our company FinReach or other players which allowed you to change or to switch your bank account actually in 10 minutes now. So you don't have to go to a branch to switch your completely bank account, just can do it online. And this is a way towards a new B2C banking. And you will see a layer of aggregation of those different fintech verticals in the end, which then enables every customer and makes them more happy than now with Postbank, I would say.
Whenever I talk to people in the fintech sector, they are telling me that the problem is not the front end, but the structure, the ecosystem,
yeah.
the technique of the old banking system. And actually, I was doing a story about blockchain, and they were telling me you can only change the whole banking system in general if you use something new like blockchain.
I need to disagree. Yes, you need to change the whole IT infrastructure. That's true. You need to change the whole value chain when it comes to changing banking. That's for example, we built the Solaris Bank as banking as a platform with complete new technology where all the innovations can happen on top of it. We don't use blockchain yet. The reason why we don't use blockchain, and that's something when it comes to digitalization and banking or in general, it's always the same. Blockchain is F&E, it's R&D, it's research and development. So blockchain has not a legal framework to happen in Germany. If I still need to go to the notary, it doesn't matter if I send them the email via blockchain or just via internet. There's no change.
Legally the same.
Pardon?
Legally
it's the same. The problem is, when we talk in digitalization, especially in corporates about change, there's this one, I call it in German, I don't have a good English sentence for it in German, it's like Brot- und Butter-Digitalisierung, so the basically digitalization, you have to do it. This is making from your internet website an app, or making from the paper-based formula an online formula. That's not great digitalization. And then we have those blockchain discussions, which is not even driving any business cases so far, but in the middle, the new business through digitalization never, in Germany, no one is actually talking about it. And if you look, whose are the best banks in Europe? The Spanish banks. BBVA and Santander, they go out there and they say, how can I actually earn more money with digitalization? And if you look what Lufthansa just said, he's not talking about flying. He's talking about traveling.
Absolutely.
So he's behind joint flying.
Sounds more like a travel agency or something.
Yeah, but if he's earning money there through digitalization, why shouldn't Lufthansa go there? And it's the same with banks.
Yeah, and maybe it's the same with Universal Music, but I mean, when I listen to music, I listen to Apple Music, I listen to Spotify, I listen to Deezer, sometimes to YouTube, so not to Universal Music. And
actually, you listen probably to Universal Music.
yeah, but I don't know it. But Universal as a brand doesn't happen anymore. So you don't need to happen as a brand anymore, or you're just content deliverer for other big players?
So, in the first place, we never really promoted the brand, or we never really promoted the brand Universal, because our brands are actually the artists that we are releasing. So a lot of the customers, is probably the main audience, is they're not aware of which label is actually releasing the artist, because it's not that important for them. So what we always did, and are doing still by now, is we are heavily promoting our artists as a brand. So if you talk about streaming for us is the new solution, and actually is driving a lot of market growth at the moment, because it's by now dropping into the early majority. But of course, for us, being on the innovation, let's say, front end, is we're looking into new developments by now as well. If we talk about VR, AR, this is super highly interesting content formats where we are actually right now developing the content and talking to a lot of startups that have from hardware solutions to infrastructure to camera technology to set up, let's say, to make the first steps in that field and to have the proper content whenever VR and AR really breaks into the mass market.
Mm-hmm. And at Lufthansa, I mean, are you more like a travel agency now? Or what are the next steps for your company in terms of digitization?
I think that question really comes back to your point, Ramin, the question of where's the business model innovation? Because I so agree on what you said. So many people within any corporate, also within Lufthansa, think about that digitalization means making something digital. Well, that's not true. Digitalization is about connecting something that has not been connected before. So, and that's a huge, huge differentiation. So if you think about it in the later stage, then you should really think about, okay, what is my business model? How can I fragment my business model into single pieces and put it together in a new way? So talking as Lufthansa, of course, the question is, what is our business model? And is our business model only flying, being an airline operator? It could be, but it could mean that in 10 years' time, we are something like the Uber driver. We are someone who actually drives a car. We are flying the airplane, but we are not having the customer impact. We are not even deciding where we're flying to, because some algorithm is actually collecting all our travel needs, analyzing them, and putting on aircraft on demand. And that is a risk for Lufthansa as a corporate, which is not exaggerated. That could happen. It might not happen tomorrow, not even in 3 years, but in the long time, such things can happen. So that's why we as the Innovation Hub really try to do two things. On the one hand, we want to help Lufthansa as a corporate to be more digital, to be more agile, etc., to learn startup methods. But on the other hand, we want to build those future businesses. So within the Innovation Hub, we built a service which is called Airline Check-ins, airlinecheckins.com. And it allows you to be automatically checked in for more than 100 airlines. Because we believe that there are so many pain points within the current industry that travel is definitely not fun. There's too many pain points in it. And if we don't solve it, I mean, that sentence is exaggerated to say if you don't do it, somebody else will. But that's true. So that's why we really try to build new solutions in that field. And if then Lufthansa actually becomes a travel company and not an airline, that, I don't know, might be on an interesting strategic decision of the board members in probably 5 years. But we as the Innovation Hub really see ourselves as focusing on travel. Yeah.
What is your next business model?
Let me comment on that, because here a lot of interesting things for startup derive from, and probably a lot of people might not get the full scope of that. So we have Daimler-Benz, for example, an old traditional car manufacturer, and we know they're all challenged by Tesla and Google and Apple and all those tech companies that want to build cars. And when Zetsche, the CEO of Daimler, said, Daimler is not any longer a car manufacturer, but we are a mobility company, which means we help people to bring them from A to B. It can be that car is the chosen technology to bring somebody from A to B, and this car is possessed by somebody, and he drives his own or her own car. But mobility is a wider scope, it's a different business model. And corporates probably are not able to build all those new business models and to offer all those new products and services to transform a company like Daimler towards a mobility company. And here, startups are the people that can change those corporates and can make exits then to those companies, because they have a need, and they all become those services and new business model, digitalized, funky companies. And they can't do about this, but they have equity. Most of those companies have huge amounts of equity stored in the bank, which can't be at the moment put somewhere because you get nothing for your money currently. You need to invest. This is the only thing how you can make money. You need to invest. And all those companies have a problem with their current business model, have the challenge to digitalize, have money in the bank, and here startups come into play. And here they can build services on top. This is why MyTaxi got acquired by Daimler. I'm not allowed to refer to that because I am not invested in MyTaxi. I'm not working for Daimler. But here my personal assumption, not even a Microsoft statement, my personal assumption why MyTaxi got acquired from Daimler. And Daimler is still hungry, and other car manufacturers are still hungry to buy those services layer on top. And probably it's the same you described for Lufthansa. So all those new business models all those new strategies from corporates are nothing else but new business opportunities for startups. And there's one thing that we tapped into, and that's the topic blockchain. That probably, who of you has, let me do a little game here now. Who of you has heard of blockchains before he mentioned it? Raise your hand, please. So if I can ask one of you to be bold enough to come on stage and explain what blockchain is, who would be able? Don't afraid you won't do. But who would be able to explain what blockchain is? 1, 2, 3 brave people. 4. Good, very good. Because what blockchain means, most of the people are not aware of what blockchain means. We are sitting here in 2016, sorry, we're 2016. What I wanted to say is, it's like a discussion people had in 1967 about internet. When you talk in 1967 about internet, people say, I don't know what internet is, it's funky, it's complicated, I can't explain. You're in a time where people can't explain currently what blockchain is, and in 20, 30 years, it's the one big thing, blockchain. And you were sitting here and saying, wow, I thought I was a digital guy, including me. I can't explain. To be frank, I personally can't explain the full scope of, I'm reading this for now weeks and months and try to get into blockchain, what it all means. I still haven't grasped the whole scope of it. So if you look into what blockchain's capability is, and Bitcoin is just one obvious example of blockchain.
Yeah.
Look into blockchain, see what business models come from that. This is huge. This is like the next internet thing. So and this is something Microsoft is, for example, with Azure, and now I have to do a little bit marketing pitch with Microsoft Azure and our backend. We're very much involved into blockchains and building this infrastructure.
That's very smart. If you really want to understand what blockchain is, go to gründerszene.de and read my article about it. It's when you Google blockchain, I think it's ranked on the second rank or something like that.
Good.
Thank you. I think it's huge. I think you're absolutely right.
50 euros you said you give to me.
I think blockchain will be huge. Yeah, it's far more than Bitcoin stuff. It's huge. Recently, I've been to a conference with German family enterprises, Mittelstandsbetrieben. And if you listen to these guys, you start to think, oh my God, they don't get it at all, what is happening in the digitization. So what do I have to do to survive the next couple of years when I am the owner of a Mittelstandsbetrieb?
So it doesn't matter if you're a Mittelstandsbetrieb or a corporate, so I will add a little bit to what Stephan said. Bringing startup to the corporates, yes, it could be a solution, but even more is changing the organization.
How?
How? Do it the FinLeap way would be the obviously answer. Of course, no, but to be honest, having a stable platform and decoupled, focused businesses, with an own aligned management team, is something which Google actually did. Google changed from Google to Alphabet, and they did it actually after us, obviously.
Of course.
Google did it because they don't want to mess up the strategy of an advertising company with the strategy of a car driving company, with the strategy of someone who flies to the moon. And that's something which all the organizations, because if you want to integrate those startups to an organization, if you want to let them build certain stuff, then you need to decouple the strategic decisions.
Okay.
I just were in a meeting with two of our founders, one business and another business, and they were actually negotiating. And then they asked me to help them, and I said, no, I'm shareholder, but I'm not your manager. And that's the reason, because if I would be in the position to make a strategic call to one or the other venture, one would be having a disadvantage. And so decouple the platform, this one which is really cost efficient, which is aligning customer IDs and so on, from the business lines. And then I think that's very, very important for this Mittelstandsbetrieb as for any other corporate, stable platform and agile development. That would be my advice to them.
What would you do?
Maybe I'm just going to add something to the blockchain thing that for us is actually also a highly interesting technology because, as you just said, there are a lot of business models that you can actually build on top of the technology. So for us, if you talk about digital rights management, it's super interesting how that will evolve within the next, let's say, 5 to 7 years for us. But what would I do with the Mittelstandsbetrieb? I think it's pretty similar to what Ramin just said. So the thing is that even also from a corporate side, we need to start to implement the techniques that actually startups have on a daily basis. So what we did on a really low level is something like, by now we have daily stand-up meetings. And this is really something that, it's really a small change for us being in the startup world. But for a corporate, it's something new that you don't have these big meetings with, 30 people and everybody's watching, or doing some stuff on the laptops. It's just 15 minutes, everybody's standing and talking about his daily tasks. So this is what we're doing on a certain level, really just trying to piece by piece implement the techniques and the agile development as well. And also, especially the culture that you can take risks. This is something that is not usual for a corporate, because a corporate manager actually is measured by his risk management. For us, it's more about probability. What could happen if I will do this step, or develop this product, or take this approach? So this is what we're trying to establish on a corporate level. And I think this is also pretty important for a Mittelstandsbetrieb, that people be courage and tell themselves, okay, maybe I have to pivot my business a bit, but this is actually a good thing because new possibilities and new opportunities will evolve from that.
Sebastian, do you sometimes say to yourself, let me out of Lufthansa? You're stepping on my nerves here with change management and digitization, and leave me alone. I start my own digital business tomorrow.
No, never. Of course. I think, and that probably counts for all of us, apart from you, because you're still too far away from the corporate. I think trying to push corporate innovation is a roller coaster. Sometimes you fall as down as it can get. It's so frustrating that you just quit. At least within Lufthansa that was the case. But when you have your next upswing, you just realize how much power such a corporate have. And power in terms of a great brand, power in terms of reach. Like Lufthansa has contact 100 million passengers every year. It's like a customer base of 100 million people. Let's just assume that Lufthansa would be able to implement travel-related products like that. How could that change something in the world, but how could it also change the company? Assets and power in terms of data. Lufthansa lies on tremendous amounts of databases. Every day we collect data, we just have not found an answer to harvest it. So whenever I reach an upswing, I realize that doing innovation on a corporate level is doing it on a much broader scale than doing it with your own startup. But it is a roller coaster with upswings and downswings. Yeah.
And how does the roller coaster at Microsoft feels?
Always good.
Always good, of course.
I mean, Microsoft is a tech company. So we are 36 years old, 40 years almost now. And the tech industry is always a very volatile, very fast-moving industry. You always have to make sure you're staying on top of it. You always have to make sure you change your business model, your strategy. Microsoft moved from waterfall development to agile development, from selling CDs in MediaMarkt and Saturn to selling Windows over the cloud. And by the way, until June 29th, you can upgrade to Windows 10. And so Microsoft is transforming significantly, and we changed our CEO, Steve Ballmer, one of the almost founding members of Microsoft and probably one of the best salesperson you can ever meet in your life. This guy is crazy, but he is super smart and he knows what he's doing. He transformed Microsoft to probably one of the best sales organizations in the world. However, this is not the skill set that we currently need to transform the company. Now we need tech people in place to transform Microsoft again to a tech company. That's why Steve Ballmer, with a person with one of the smallest egos on the world, said, I step back, you don't have to chase me, I step back by myself, and we get somebody in place who has a very deep technology background. So Satya Nadella now is a tech guy, and you see all those new tech changes that's been done to Microsoft in order to transform this company. We call it the new openness. You see that on your iPhones and iPads. We have Outlook, and the Office suite is on there. We get a new Office for the Mac computers. So we are very much deep integrated into GitHub and open our whole technology stack pretty much. So this is the transformation that's been going on at Microsoft, and frankly, this is something we need to do in order to survive. I know we can be honest here, a lot of people didn't expect Microsoft to, 6-7 years ago, many people didn't expect Microsoft to be alive 6 years down the road. And now we're still one of the most valuable companies in the world, making tons of money every year. But we need to do this and to invest this money to transform. And as I said initially, a lot of tech companies are not relevant anymore because they didn't change. And coming back to the initial question, how does startup help your startup? They're forcing us to constantly innovate, to constantly be smart. And another big thing is, startups at the moment take talents away from the market. So you have a lot of smart people going into startup, and this for a company like ours, where talents and smart people are everything. We don't have natural resource. We're not sitting on oil or anything. We need cleverness, smartness in order to evolve and to develop. And when those smart young people decide to not work anymore for companies like Microsoft or other great corporates, our companies are challenged heavily. And this is something where we need to embrace the startup scene and to change Microsoft to become also from how we work more like a startup than a corporate in order to attract those talents.
Let me just add,
Yeah,
add one
absolutely.
thing to that. I think what you just mentioned really brings to the point that the digital transformation or the transformation of companies is a CEO topic. So when you just ask what should small, medium enterprises do, make their CEO aware. I've seen so many companies that try to change because the head of innovation or head of strategy or head of whoever wanted to do so, it just didn't work. But I also saw Klöckner, a steel company. It's not a small one, but it's a very old-fashioned industry. It's a steel industry, and Gisbert Rühl, their CEO, he just realized that he needs to understand what's happening right now, and he spent 3 months traveling around the world. He spent a month here in Berlin. I was sitting next to him in a co-working space in Beta House, and we started chatting. And then I realized that he's a CEO of such a huge company, saying that, well, I can't rely on the advice of my strategist. I have to understand it myself. So he gave himself 3 years, and then he went back with a plan. The same counts for your example with Dieter Zetsche, who has this big vision of turning Daimler into a mobility company. We've seen the same with Axel Springer. So there are a lot of examples where a CEO is really able to transform a company. So I believe that as of today, that is probably the most critical factor.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions in the audience? We need at least one. Really? Come on. You? No? Nobody? Okay, then.
Nobody wants to explain blockchain?
No blockchain? Or Ethereum? That's a new blockchain? Nobody? Okay, gentlemen, then I think we have like ice cream and coffee or something.
That sounds
okay.
awesome.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks. Thank you.